what goes into team chemistry, and it's basically just how does your team work together, and how do you mesh, and how do you make decisions? And there's a bunch of things that go into that, which we'll get into just a moment. But you basically, you get really good at intuitively establishing goals that your team wants to do, and then everyone figures out their role in how to get to that goal. That seems very simple, but when you have lots of young guys, when you have inexperienced guys, or you have guys that are kind of up and down and really worried about keeping their job, sometimes it's really hard to guess what those things are when you don't have the experience. So the onus then goes on the team that you're on to tell you and be like, this is what our expectations are. And if you exceed those expectations, that's a big thumbs up. But if you do your job, your chance of staying on this team are really good, and we will be a better team and long term, and you will have a better career because you're able to identify those things and do them. I have the Dodgers here. They're notorious for being good at this, being very clear, open, and honest, and communicative about what they want, what they see you doing, why they think you're valuable, and then what you are going to be called to do. So that is what team chemistry is, just on the field. And then on the backside, the players have to enjoy being in the same room together. And that's not true everywhere. You know, you're going to run into guys who just suck. Sometimes you're going to be in clubhouses where you really just try to ignore somebody, or when they walk in a room, you find yourself wanting to leave that room. Of course, that's going to happen. It's dozens of people in and out all the time. There's going to run into people you don't like. And of course, I had a bunch of those. Not a ton. It was like maybe a couple on the worst teams, and most teams were great, but it does happen. And if your team all likes each other, that is something that is really helpful. And how do you do that? You just kind of lean into the things that that you have fun. So why is team chemistry so important? What does it do for you? So the game is fueled by emotion and adrenaline, okay? When you are emotionally driven and adrenaline driven, you play every day, you're tired. You're physically tired. You have to work through being tired all the time. And adrenaline and emotion are the best ways to do that. Whether or not it seems bottled up or whatever, it is super important, okay? Now, if you are operating in that space, you gotta feel comfortable and safe to do it. Like if you're out there like, I can't, if I can't get too emotional, or I can't have too much adrenaline, or I can't do certain things, if that's just a general feeling because you're new, you're young, you don't know what you're doing, you don't think you belong there, nobody acknowledges you, whatever it is, if you don't have that, it's really hard to go down and reach for those things. So teams that are good, everyone on their team feels like they can be themselves, or a version of themselves that makes them successful on a baseball field. That's important for chemistry. That is done by some of the categories we're going to talk about in a second. And secondly, focus. You got to be able to focus, and it comes down to being comfortable again. If you're worried about other things, you can't focus on the things that matter. Heard that before? Yeah, that's called life. So you need those two things, and the best teams foster those two things. They say, hey man, go do what you got to do. We got your back. Like if that's the way you're going to operate, you're going to get the best version of those guys because they're not worried about anything but baseball. And that's what you want to get. That's what you want to foster. Sounds very simple. Sounds very easy. But some people have things going on at home. Like even when there's stuff going on outside of the field that the team may not know about, the least that you can do is have the clubhouse feel like a place that they belong. Because if you don't feel like you belong in either place, that's when things get hairy. I know that from experience from time to time in my career. So let's talk a little bit about the things that all teams with good chemistry have, okay? And I found a great article from a website that I actually never seen before, but I agreed with the way it was broken up, so I'm gonna reference it here. This is the focus, by the way. You gotta focus your hand and off. Congratulations, USA Women's Track Team. You guys are really good. But this article by Amy Watkins was on a website called newarena.com. I believe it's just a blog. It was written on July 16th last month. Inside Clubhouse, what makes team culture great, or AKA chemistry. So I just want to give her a shout out. And the way that this was broken down, I thought was a great way to do it. So number one, you need leadership. You need a veteran in a clubhouse that you can defer to when you don't know the answer to stuff. There has to be guys in a clubhouse that if you're like, hey man, where am I supposed to be for this thing? What time should it be? Like, how does this guy operate? How do I pitch to this guy? Whatever. There has to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys in a clubhouse where there's certain groups of people in that clubhouse that feel comfortable going to them and talking to them and deferring to them when things get hairy. When the team's not doing well or the team's doing good, you have the center of your flying V moving you towards your goals. So, Tom Brady. Say what you want about Tom Brady. The guy led, for sure. So, that's number one. Leaders are important. A great example was in 2022. We had Max Scherzer with the pitchers and Francisco Lindor with the hitters, and that was just, at least as the regular season went. And of course, we didn't get the job done in the playoffs. But the reason we were so consistently good in the playoffs is because we had those 2 guys that we trusted to lead us in the correct direction. If any of us hadn't had any experience, those 2 guys have had pretty much all the experiences. And we deferred to them, and it works. And they, by all accounts, still are doing that on the teams they are on right now. Number 2, open communication and dialogue. So we got the Spurs here. They had that amazing run. And anecdotally, we know that Popovich is a great coach, but we also know that all of these guys had their own input into how they should win games and what they can do. Everyone was always on the same page, both off the field and on the field. And that is not as common in baseball as you think. There are teams where you're looking around, you're like, I've never seen my owner before. I don't know what he wants. Or I've never seen my GM. I've never spoken to my president of baseball operations. If you don't ever talk to them, you're just guessing at that point. You're guessing what they want. And if you're guessing what they want all the time, it's really hard to guess right. And so communication, treating people like adults and just saying, hey, this is what we expect. And then if you choose to get rid of them, trade them, release them, whatever, you can say, we had the expectations. Those expectations were not met. Unfortunately, this is what we have to do, and it softens the blow. It's understandable across the board. You might still be angry. You might not agree, but at least you knew going in. And there's so many moving pieces. This is one of the biggest things that teams struggle with: is how do we do this effectively? And believe it or not everyone's very personable. Not everyone's very, very good at communicating these things, and they're not comfortable doing it. And when that happens, the team chemistry suffers. Number 3, you need to have an identity. Now, I mean, I know this is a little bit of a gimmick, but they had an identity. Look at this smile. That's a happy dude. That's a guy who loves where he is. These guys are genuinely having a blast. That's what it takes. You have to have a team identity, and that comes down to, this is our goal. This is how we win games. We hit homers. We steal bases. We do this thing. We do that thing. And then the players buy into it. That's good coaching. That takes good executives. And that's one thing that I like. I think the Mets are moving in the right direction, is I think they are getting that expectation and that communication and that identity as a group. This is how we win baseball games and will into the future. It's becoming year after year, not just year and then changes the next year. Like, we're searching. We actually found something that works. And teams like the Astros that went to the ALCS 7 years in a row, they had an identity to where when a new guy joined the team, he fit right into that identity and he got it right away. And sometimes that's done through fun stuff like this. It's done through like having group outings or going and doing things or whatever. Like, everyone latches onto a song, a win song, all that stuff factors in. If you have good stuff that everyone likes and it participates in, that is great team identity together, okay? Last 2, inclusion. This kind of is attached to the leadership side, but it's very important that the rookie feels that he is valuable to a team, and that is communicated to him through a guy who is a veteran. When a rookie walks into a clubhouse and has anticipated that moment for his entire life, getting to the major leagues, and feels like, I can't say anything, that guy might not be very good right away. So that's what's changed a lot in baseball. Now, there is some nice razzing hazing that is part of that inclusion. Like, literally messing with them is what brings them into the group. That is a very dude thing to do. That still exists. I want to be clear. We're not like, hey man, you're part of the team. We love you. Like, it's not like that. It's like a, sup idiot, welcome. Don't mess this up. But in reality, it's like, you got this, right? It's like there's a fine line, and some guys are good at it, some guys aren't. But that is the way it is. You got to bring them in as quickly as you can so that when they go out in the field, they don't feel like they're an imposter, because imposter syndrome in professional sports is freaking everywhere. And so that is what I mean by inclusion. Additionally, when the predominantly English speakers and the Spanish speakers like each other, have fun, and there's a lot of, it's a combined group, because as you can imagine, those groups separate a little bit because one group wants to speak Spanish and speak fast and say everything they want and like mess around with the jokes from where they're from, whatever, and they kind of click. And of course they click out a little bit. But if it's not like a we don't like each other situation, we like each other, we just are more comfortable being where we can communicate clearly most of the time, and then we come together and have a lot of fun. Like that is, again, bringing people into your culture a little bit, that you don't have to be like, you are one of us now, but a little bit of overlapping of cultures is also a great indicator, and it is included in there. And then the last piece that you need in order to make this whole thing work, you gotta have some gosh darn fun. You gotta tape up Pedro Martinez, right? You gotta, again, this all comes down to comfort. This is a great example. When teams are having fun, all of those other boxes have been checked. Right? So you're gonna read articles. You're gonna read, are the coaches like letting them run wild in the clubhouse? That's the coaches, that's not their jurisdiction. The clubhouse is for the players. It's up to them to do that. And it's leadership that needs this to happen. If coaches try to make it happen, it does not work. It does not work. It does not work. I've been on teams where the manager would constantly choose the music and we hated it. It drove us crazy. We're like, stop changing the music. You're not a player, right? Like, we love you, but God damn it. Get out of here, right? Get out. So that isn't real. And then you're going to hear that a lot. No one likes that. Like, managers, it's very hard to do that because in reality, they're going to have to make hard decisions that are not the decision that you'd make as a player at some point. They will. They're going to have to. There has to be a level of separation. And the guys that are good enough in saying, hey, I'm going to come in here and yell at you if you need fire lit. You guys are being stupid for a while. But I'm not going to make a habit out of it. I'm not going to hang out in here all day with you all the time because this is your place and I am your dad in a lot of ways. So at the end of the day, team chemistry, it is very important. It is one of the most important things. And it can be fostered very easily by some guys who carry some weight in that clubhouse. The Joe Mauers, the Torrey Hunters, the Max Scherzers, the Francisco Lindors of the world, taking initiative and saying, this is how I have fun. What do you guys got? So that everyone's out there trying to do it. That's the key, and that's where it starts. It starts with the guys who've been around. Just like when Bryce Harper got in Rob Manfred's face and everyone's like, dude, you make tons of money. Why are you complaining? He's not. What he's doing is leading and speaking up on behalf of the guys that don't feel comfortable doing it. That is what he's doing. And that is the example of what leadership looks like in baseball and how you build great team chemistry. So let me know what you guys think in the chat, in the comments, everywhere, because I hope this clears it up. I hope this is a good point of reference if you were wondering, does my team have good chemistry or not? Because if you can point out the guys that do some of these things well, maybe that's not the issue. Maybe it's just we got to focus a little bit more on the field.